Hey everybody, it's Phil Bruce here, and in today's video we're going to talk about progressive overload, both what it is and things that we can do to get progressive overload in our training, in our workout, in our exercise. So first of all, what is progressive overload? Basically what it is, it's where you make a training session harder, or where you do more of them, or where you basically push yourself more than what you did before and what you did previously. And the reason for that is when you do a certain exercise or a certain routine, a certain training program, lift a certain weight and do things the same all the time or the same regularly, your muscles get into what's called adaptation. So basically they get used to it. So if I'm lifting, let's say 10 kilos each arm bicep curl, and I'm doing 6 reps, I'm doing 4 sets. And if I do that every single week, and I do that for months and months and months, what will happen at first, if it's a new stimuli, the muscles will get stronger, they'll adapt, they'll work harder, and they'll get bigger and stronger, as I say. But then after a while, I'm not putting as much effort in because my muscles are used to it. So the adaptation is the fact that they just stay the same. They're able to do the move, but they're not getting any stronger. They're not getting any more tone. They're not getting bigger. They're not improving, basically. So that's what we mean about adaptation. Your muscles just getting used to what you're doing. So with progressive overload, we're trying to continually push ourselves to, as I say, put more strain, put more stress onto the body, onto the muscles than what we typically do. But it's an important caveat to say that it needs to be done safely and effectively. So it needs to be done with a safe range of motion, with a safe weight, and with a safe form and technique to reduce the chances and the likelihood of picking up injuries, which will then put us back for a while. And as I say, injuries are never a good thing. So progressive overload, how can we do it? Give us some examples, Phil. I know that's what you're thinking, so I will indeed do that for you. So the first one we'll look at is more time. So basically, for example, if I'm doing 2 training sessions a week, could I put it up to 3 training sessions a week? If I am doing 3 sets of a move, could I put it up to 4 sets of a move? If I'm lifting, as I said, the 10 kilos on the bicep curl for each arm, could I put it up to 12.5 kilos on each arm, or 15 kilos, for example? Could I, instead of doing the 6 reps that I said for 4 sets, could I do 8 reps or 10 reps with that weight? So that by doing it more, you're doing it more often, you're challenging the muscles that little bit more, and they're having to work hard and keep working harder. So that's the first one. We could also look at the amount of weight that we're lifting if we're doing weight training. So again, for example, if, like I said, if I'm doing 10 kilos, can I put 12.5 kilos on there? Is it a fact of, am I trying to go quicker if I'm doing a run? So if I'm doing some fartlek training, basically fartlek training is where you mix it up between a walk, a jog and a sprint. Am I then going to sprint for longer? Then that could be longer distance. Am I going to recover less as well? So we look at that, because that then brings us into another way that we can train, which is another way we can adapt and progressively overload, which is to reduce the rest time and the recovery time. So again, for example, if I'm going back to the 10 kilo bicep curl lift with each arm, if I've done my six reps and I decide I'm going to rest for 90 seconds in between sets, to allow my muscles to recover, to allow my heart rate to go down, to allow me to feel like I can lift again. Instead of 90 seconds, could I reduce that to 60 seconds or 45 seconds in between sets? And again, what that's doing, it's allowing your muscles to get used to recovering quicker. It's challenging it because at first they might not be fully recovered and you're doing the lift. So again, that might put that kind of extra stimuli, extra effort on it. And over time, the body will be able to recover quicker. And again, if you're thinking about a sprint, if I'm doing a 100-meter sprint, instead of having a 2-minute rest before doing it again, could I have a 1-minute rest? So that's an example of decreasing your rest time, your recovery time. Again, can we put up the volume within the sessions? So, like I've said, instead of doing 3 sets of a move, it could be 4, or instead of doing 4 sets of a move, it could be 5. Instead of, say, I'm working one muscle group at a time. So, for example, if I'm doing a chest and back session, I could be doing one move on chest, which could be, for example, bench press, and I could be doing one move on back, which could be a lat pull down. So could I actually do 2 moves per muscle group instead? So could I do the bench press, which I've talked about, but then could I also do a sitting chest press, or a lying down fly, or a seated fly, again working the different areas on the chest? Could I, for the back, do a lat pull down, which I talked about, which works the big muscles in the middle, and it works at the top as well? And then could I do a seated row, so I'm pulling the weight in? That'll work me, as I say, in a different aspect and area of my back, and I'm putting more volume in the sense of the exercises that I'm doing. Could I also look at to progressively overload with the conditions and the heat that I'm training in? So if I'm training in a warmer environment, for example, that'll raise the heart rate up, that'll get me having to work harder, the oxygen levels will be lower for me, so we're having to adapt there. Again, that's in comparison to a colder place. So could I try to exercise in a warmer place to, again, build that up? And that's why you see a lot of these football teams and a lot of athletes, when they're training for an event or in the pre-season or whatever it is, they'll go away to a high climate, high heat, warm area. So again, they can do acclimatization, they can do some different training and put their body and tax their body through that as well. So could be the environment and the heat that we're training at. But again, the big caveat is make sure we're doing that safely and make sure we are getting plenty of hydration, plenty of food down as well. Could it also be, again, linking in the duration of the training, instead of training once a day, and I know I've talked about this slightly on a previous video, could we train twice a day? So, for example, if I'm doing a weight session on a Tuesday, could I maybe do a weight session in the morning and then do a cardio session in the evening, or a core session or a stretching session? Something that works a different component of fitness. So again, you're working, you're doing double the sessions, but because you're working different muscle groups, different areas, different types of fitness, you're not overly fatiguing it to a point that you can't do it, but you are challenging your body, and that will get you fitter overall within the components of that. Again, we could also think about the effort that we're putting in. So if I am coming back from an injury and I am reducing the amount of training that I'm doing, or I'm reducing the tempo, the effort of it, could I then think, well, as I'm getting more and more recovered and ready to train, could I up it? So instead of doing some jogs, could I do some sprints? Instead of doing, as I say, lighter weights, more reps, could I do heavier weights and less reps, for example? So there's different ways to do that, and it's upping the intensity in that. And another one that I will talk about today, and probably the final one, because I'm just aware of bombarding too much, we could also talk about the range of motion and the tempo, so linking that in. So what I mean by that is, if I'm doing, let's go back to that bicep curl. So if I'm lifting up, instead of going to about here and then on the way down to about there, could I lift it all the way up so I'm level with the head, so I'm getting more range of motion on the contraction? And could I bring it right down to my body, level with my hips on the way down, again getting more on the eccentric, the lowering, and that'll just work the muscles through more range of motion, so you'll get bigger, stronger muscles, you'll get better results from it. Again, with the sprints, I'm able to get more planes of motion with the arms, with the legs, keeping my back nice and straight. So they're examples of range of motion. Stretches, am I able to try and touch my toes while keeping my legs straight, rather than my shins and my legs straight? So again, getting more range of motion within it, challenging the muscles in a safe and effective way. And it could also be, if I'm lifting weights, Instead of, as I say, the bicep curl where I did the left up and down, instead of going quick up, quick down, where the muscle's going contract, relax, could we slow it? So could we go at a slower way on the way up and slower on the way down, especially on the eccentric parts of that lowering phase? What that does is the muscle is staying contracted for longer, and that allows, as I say, the muscle to work harder for longer, so bettering your results there. So I hope you found those little hints and tips and examples of things to do nice and useful for when it comes to progressive overload, and I hope we've cleared up why progressive overload will be beneficial in so many ways when you're training and when you're exercising, when you're working out, and I hope you're able to put those in your program and see results from them. But just keep trying to improve in slightly different ways, in slightly different tempos. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic, but if you can improve one of those at a time or a couple of those at a time, those elements, you will see results from it. And if you keep going, if you stay patient, if you stay consistent. So yeah, hope you found that useful. Hope that you've had a great start to your week so far. Take care, all of you. It'd be great if we could get as many subscribers as possible. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. So until then, take care, sending my love, and bye for now.